Yum yum.
Hi there, Dojo disciples, SeanOrange here, and if you're like me, then you were glued to this Nintendo Direct hoping to finally see an announcement on a very particular sequel on Nintendo Switch. That's right, you know what I'm talking about. Should we say it together? Samba de Amigo. More like bait and switch, am I right? But every now and again, a Direct drops a total surprise that Nintendo makes available immediately. And this time, it was Game Boy for Nintendo Switch Online. There aren't many games yet, but they're all classics. And gargoyles. Sorry, fans of gargoyles, I've just never heard of it. Guess now's my chance. There is, of course, the pack-in Tetris game, and boy, that's another story entirely. Legend of Zelda DX, my heart. The first ever Kirby game. Oh, and Game & Watch Gallery 3, which includes Mario Brothers, the first ever game with Luigi. But also, if you play the modern version, you're treated to a Mario All-Stars style remake. Wario Land 3, is this different than Super Mario Land 3? And Super Mario Land 2, which introduced Wario. The first thing you'll notice hopping into a non-Game Boy Color game is a nostalgic yet overly saturated green color scheme, which I just cannot stand for long. And it may seem at first that there's no way to change this. But if you go back to the game selection screen and click on the gear for settings, you can change it to an off-white and black Game Boy Pocket display, or the default Game Boy Color palette. Unfortunately, there's no color cycling via the D-pad, we just get the default best colors. There's also an option to mimic the grid lines of the original hardware's dot matrix displays, and even a pixel-perfect size option, which I'm not that much of a purist to care about, especially playing on a TV or even handheld mode here. Interestingly, if you made a restore point, then it screen caps whatever settings you use at the time. But if you open the game, it just restores the data and uses your current display settings, which makes sense, honestly. It would be a huge pain otherwise. One of the most surprising features to me is that, at least in the North American eShop version, you have the option to play some of the European variants. Which reminds me a lot of the Zelda Game & Watch and its language options for each game. So of course, bringing that up, I bet you're wondering, what about the Japanese versions? Well, if you're no stranger to Famicom Dojo, you've already set up a Switch profile to access the Japanese eShop on your non-Japanese Switch. And you can just download it from there onto your home screen. The games are all there and nearly the same selection, except for... Chris Kohler mentioned it on Twitter, presumably at the time it was glitching out during this news, that it was pretty certain we get Mother 3 in Japan. So hope you're practicing your Japanese. Oh god, is this Mahjong? Also, not for nothing, but I rarely go into the online menu and there's stuff in here, man. I can spend my Nintendo Silver points on Animal Crossing Island Residence? What the? And I can do challenges to earn coins? Okay, I will have to come back to this after the video. But probably the most welcome feature is wireless local and online multiplayer, on games that support it anyway, which you might have noticed when I blew past it earlier on my way to gush over the cosmetic options before anything else. Way to bury the lead, Sean. This is why no one watches your videos. And you talk to yourself in the third person. Back in the day, you needed a link cable like this, or one with multiple ends if you're trying to connect newer Game Boys like the Pocket or Color, so wireless is a great update. This reminds me of the NES and Famicom games that enable save data for stuff that required the data recorder on original hardware. Looking at you, Excitebike. It looks like this screen filters down the games that are available for multiplayer, like Tetris, which I already downloaded onto my Switch Lite, aka the Kid Switch as it's called in my household. What am I thinking? I can't play 2 Tetris games at once. Forget Tetris 99, I suck at Tetris 2.
Famicom Dojo.
Believe me, this was not the first video I expected to make in 2023. We do have a couple more on the way, but until then, if you want more Game Boy goodness, I have this video for you about the Super Game Boy controller and how to use it with the Super Game Boy. Or if you're super excited to download the Japanese version of Game Boy NSO, you can follow the directions in this video. Or you can watch this ridiculous Take On Me Samba de Amigo parody. I did warn you.